Who was that?
God, he really was Jack Kirby, wasn't
he? He really was. The next major event that happens is, and boys, I had much sport of this on the group message today. But Magneto kidnaps, seduces, and then presumably knobs Janet Van Dyne. What did you make? What did you make of the character?
What choice way to put it, Flanagan.
Well, it's not a glamorous term, but I mean...
Yeah, man, I thought it was a pretty smooth seduction, and she went for it.
Yeah, what did you make of Magneto, the smooth operator?
All right, let me just put it to you this way, all right? This comic is sexist in the way old comics are. There are some moments in these comics where I was genuinely taken aback with how overtly sexist they were. Oh god, there was some really, really bad moments between Iron Man and Captain Marvel.
Yes. Also, Iron Man, the black fella, going, "Oh look, it's a new Spider-Woman. She's got some legs on her." Or the broad. Who's the broad? Who's the dame? Who's the chick? Who's your doll?
Yeah. Also, there was a lot of similar stuff with. Again, spoiler. It's not the Tony Stark Iron Man here. It was James Rhodes was acting as Iron Man, but there was some sort of really difficultly shoot-in sort of. I can't think of a better way to say it. Black stuff.
Blaxploitation dialogue.
Yeah, it was really bad, and I think the absolute nadir of this was when he's roller skating around in his
his jet powered roller skates.
His jet powered roller skates are just something to behold. I had to double check. I had to go back and look to make sure that I hadn't imagined that he wasn't in roller boots. It was ridiculous. But yeah, so Magneto seduces the Wasp. It's
gives her the high hard one. Yes.
Yeah, it's Magneto in
those are the hot snots.
I haven't actually got my copies here to hand, but
I have mine. I currently did the. I got from the Marvel.com official collection. There's a 2011 remastered digital edition that you can get for very, very cheap. So I picked up that this week in order to get the kind of best experience of this that I could. It's nice. They've brightened it up a little bit, and your white pages are white, and your colors are the colors that they are. But it's a really nice presentation of the story, and it's from about I believe these scans are from about 2011.
Well, you can help me out here because have I imagined
which issue? What are you looking at?
I think it's in issue 3. Have I imagined that Magneto is wearing silk pajamas with the Wasp around?
Pajamas, my friend. Yeah. No, he does. He does indeed change. What he does is, at Magneto's citadel, he begins the evening by simply looking out at a wondrous storm, which he describes as wondrous and inspiring. Mm-hmm. But let the storm rage ever stronger, he says, for I have a guest to attend. And a burst of magnetic force streams forth from the mutant master of magnetism, shaking through the labyrinth corridors to the vast hangar deep in the bowels of a fortress where a makeshift magnetic prison hovers suspended magnetically in the air. The force bolt strikes, freeing its tiny captive, Clung. And then the Wasp is free. But yes, he is in his evening wear, if you will. There's a wonderful moment where he manages to take off his helmet and cape using his magnetic abilities. And he's now sitting down, and he looks like he's eating looks like eating a wrap and drinking a bit of wine.
I would have said a croissant.
Oh, it's a croissant, would you say? Okay, a croissant and a bit of wine.
It looks delicious.
Yeah, Wasp wanders on in, and what's the first thing she says to him? Well, la-dee-da.
He's one of those fancy mutants that they have nowadays, isn't he?
Yeah. So she immediately blasts. Oh, you're right. It is croissants. I can tell by the part where she blasts it out of his lap. So the Wasp essentially and Magneto were caught in this building during this giant ionic storm that's going on outside, and Magneto kind of subtly implies, "Well, we're here for a while, and there's not much else to do, and there's this storm outside. So, want to wrestle?"
I was going to say it's not stated, but it's fairly subtly implied. I'm just looking at it. No, he goes for it.
Oh yeah. This is the seduction episode. While at the same time, Thor is out in the storm, just smashing rocks with Mjolnir, and She-Hulk is carrying around a device that I can only describe as cosmically phallic.
It's at the exact same moment as Iron Man's using his disco roller boots. Good for him. There's a lot happening in this issue. I tell you what, the next big thing that does in fact happen is something that has ramifications that continue to play out in the Marvel Universe wide today. The creation of two brand new villains for it, Volcana and Titania, who has been fairly much a mainstay of the Marvel Universe since back then. I know Volcana's kind of dropped off, but Titania is still fairly current, is she not?
Yeah, she is. Yeah. And, this is her meeting Crusher Cradle for the first time.
Mm-hmm. I think the prominent point of issue 3, really, just looking back at it here, is the fact that, how the Spider-Man situation plays out with the X-Men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really one of the most important parts of this story, in that, these are the first kind of signs of Charles Xavier being a particularly manipulative little fucker.
Really?
Yeah.
Really, give that man some legs and suddenly he's all, oh.
Do you know what? Something else I'll say for this issue as well is that, I think we're going to, and we'll probably say some fairly unkind things about Jim Shooter's writing in this, but he knows how to write a portentous and pretentious Doctor Doom speech. When he's imbuing these.
Oh yeah,
I'll
give him his wins where he gets his wins. His ability to write Doctor Doom and his ability to write the Molecule Man are two of the highlights of the series. I will say this: I know we may give it shit. We can't possibly hold Secret Wars up to modern writing standards.
No.
Oh God, no. I mean,
it is of its time. And its time is 30, 40 years ago now. No, really. And, 1984.
33.
33 years ago.
There you go.
So it's...
The most charitable thing I can say about his writing is it's dense and there's a lot of it.
Yes.
But he does have a very distinctive way of writing dialogue.
Yeah, listen to this, right? This is when he's transforming them into supervillains, right? And two mortal subjects who dare to gamble for power, knowing lose is death. For truly here I shall test the limits of power a human body can contain. With the throwing of a switch, soul to die is cast. Hear me! Power must be seized. Crave it, welcome it, drink it in, despite the pain, or it will destroy you. Moments later, yeah, you were right, Doctor. I did it. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I think his he actually does quite a good. He's a lot better at writing the villains than he is at writing any kind of pithy dialogue between the heroes. Just because of the way the villains were written back then.
I would agree with that.
I mean, like Crusher Creel. I think he's got Crusher Creel just like nailed.
In saying that, I absolutely disagree that Titania may have designed her own clothes, because no woman would ever design that outfit for herself.
Yeah, I think the thigh-high boots with the wing at the front and the cleavage window. I think you might be right with that one.
Yeah,
yeah,
massive titty window.
Yeah, it is. Well, she now has, No, that's just not. Anyway, next up, and this for me is the defining moment of the series, and the one that, when I think back to my childhood, just remembering this, and in particular a cover that showed this happening. The Molecule Man drops an entire fucking mountain on the heroes, and the Hulk has to hold it up. Fucking Bobby, I mean, what do you make of that?
Is it this? No, it's not this episode. It's not. Well, I mean, it came a couple of issues later, but which one is it where they mind wipe Spider-Man?
We literally just talked about
issue 3.
No, I mean, I'm saying, sorry, I'm kind of going through them and I'm kind of losing track of which number we're on, but issue 3 is literally the first Marvel comic I ever read.
So, real sweet. Was it the UK?
Ever.
The UK edition.
It would have been the UK edition, yeah.
Well, we'll talk about a bit more about the UK edition later on. It's how many people got their first Marvel comics, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, people always say like, Hulk strongest there is, and you go, all right, dead on. But this is the first. This is probably the Hulk using his strength on the large, just the scale of it.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that I don't think a lot of writers would have bothered or even tried to put across.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he can lift heavy stuff, but like
that cover has been recreated so many different times in Hulk stories as well.
Yeah,
it's it's the equivalent of that Spider-Man cover where he's trapped underneath the big fucking heavy thing of machinery, isn't it?
Yeah, or that it's always the Hulk stroke Hercules stroke She-Hulk stroke Colossus stroke Thor stroke whoever who's like handy in a weightlifting contest. It's always the Atlas pose holding up the name of the comic.
Yeah,
that's always a kind of widely used one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God,
these are venerable.
I'd just like to point out the fact that Molecule Man did it to fucking impress Volcana.
Well, interestingly enough, whilst this is all going on, Thor isn't with them because he's off macking on the Enchantress.
Mm-hmm. For there are things that only us gods can talk about, I believe was the phrase he used.
What a lad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God.
What a lad.
And issue 3, by the way, is the only issue of the story drawn by Bob Layton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the reason behind that was because Jim Shooter was making ridiculous demands of Mike Zeck with regards of he kept asking him to change stuff, just taking out the shots that he'd done. He would say, "Yeah, we need more establishing shots of alien landscapes," and it was driving Mike up the left.
Dare I say, the Layton issue was the best drawn of the series.
I think you may well be right. I would say certainly the cover is up there. I can think there's maybe
it's iconic.
There's one other cover that I would say is just as good, if not even better. Whilst we're talking about Thor and the Molecule Man getting their Mac on, but by a similar token, the next storyline that comes up there is the Human Torch and Soviet super suave lover Colossus try and seduce the same alien. I mean, Bobby, you made an interesting point about that particular thing earlier on. Right?
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to see if I can find this. So it's Colossus is lying in bed thinking about how old was she?
Kitty Pryde, Kareem Marcantonio was
At that time, 15.
Ah, Jesus. So Colossus is lying in bed thinking about Kitty Pryde and how much he loves her.
It should be noted that Colossus is only 19.
He's right.
Ah, okay, right. Hey, still illegal.
Well, hang on. Before you go into your point here, Bobby, I should say that the Colossus Kitty Pryde thing in the X-Men comics in the early 80s was, firstly, it was always unrequited.